All right, I just started recording because I forgot to record. I tend to forget to record. I remember and then I get busy and I forget. So I'm just going to recap what we're doing. We just listed the author's purpose, and now we're trying to figure out the other two modes of discourse. We have narrative, which is a story, and description, which is the five senses. And we're going to use our author's purpose here to help us fill in the rest of the modes of discourse. So look at the author's purpose. Do you see any modes in there? What do you think?
Are they persuasion?
Yes, persuade is another mode. Yes. So we have description and narrative, and now we have persuasion, right? And what is persuasion? How would we define persuasion? Either one of you can answer that. Priyanshi, do you know what persuasion is? What is persuasion? What does that mean?
To agree with the author's idea.
They want the reader to agree with them, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to use the word to convince. Right? And this is really subjective. It's a lot of opinion, right? And it's biased. Okay, we have one more. And Ray, you were saying in the last class that textbooks fit in this mode of discourse. And this mode of discourse goes along with inform, but it is a different word than inform. And if you need a hint, tell me.
The last one, I don't know, I remember E.
Yes, starts with an E.
Yeah.
Exposition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Expository texts, right? And what are expository texts again?
Explanative.
This is to tell. This is a telling text. Right? To tell or explain. And so this is fact-based. And it is objective. It tries not to have any bias, right? So there you go, you've done it.
I'm sorry.
You have done it. So we have the three authors' purposes. We have listed and explained the modes of discourse. And now we need to figure out the 6 patterns of organization. And Priyanshi, you have some. What do you got? You are, there you go.
Compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast. Yep. And what are you doing when you're comparing and contrasting? And you know what? These are actually two. So I'm going to say compare and then contrast.
And then I've got causes and effect.
Yes, but let's define, what does it mean when you compare? When we're using the compare pattern of organization, what are authors doing?
The compare meant, suppose if there was something similar, so we just compare them.
Yep.
But it's basically the same thing. Like,
Right. Similar things, right? You're going to look at how things are similar. I'm just going to put that in there because that is a little bit clearer. And I'm going to just take that out like that. Okay. And so what does contrast mean?
Right.
the
Did
opposite?
somebody say something? What? Sorry?
The opposite? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So contrasting looks at how things are different or opposite. So I want to talk to you about comparing and contrasting. What do we usually do if we're at the supermarket or a grocery store and we're looking at two cans of beans?
We look for the price, we compare.
Are we comparing? Are we
Yes.
looking at how things are similar when we're comparing prices or how things are different?
Yes, we do.
Product might be different, but the prices, we compare them.
Yep. What are we looking at? When we look at the prices, what are we going to look at? Why are we looking at the prices?
The money you have and the things you took.
Right? So we're seeing how they're priced differently, right? So
Yep.
we're actually contrasting. We say the word compare a lot when we mean contrast. So if you're looking at two products that are, it's the same product, but you're looking at two brands and you're looking at the price to see which one you want to buy,
Mhm.
you are actually looking at how those two things are different, right?
Yes.
They're both black beans, but you are looking at which one's cheaper, how much am I getting for my money? Like, is there more sodium in one than the other? So you're looking at how they're different when you're comparing the products. That makes sense?
Yes.
So then we're going to use the word contrast. And so this is where it's confusing, right? This is where it's confusing because when we're talking to each other, we talk about comparing prices. That's the language that we use, but we're actually contrasting. We're not looking at how things are the same. Now, if I were baking a pie, and I've done this, by the way, I'm baking a pie and I look in my cupboard and I usually use shortening, right, to bake my pie crust. And I go and look in my cupboard and I don't have enough shortening. I'm short. Like I only have so much and it's not enough to make my pie crust. Then I'm going to be using a compare thing because I'm going to be thinking, what is just like shortening that I have in my house so I don't have to go to the grocery store, right?
Yep.
And then maybe I'd say, oh, you know what's like shortening? Butter. Butter's like shortening. I'm just going to use butter for the rest. And that's a compare because I'm trying to figure out what's just like shortening so I can still make my pie crust without going to the grocery store. So do you see the difference there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's how compare and contrast work. You're looking at how things are alike. I'm going to put that word down here too. And you're looking at how things are different when you're doing contrast. All right. So what's another one? Another pattern.
Mm,
Causes and effect.
Yep.
I mean,
cause effect.
cause and effect. Yeah.
Yep. And what does cause and effect mean?
The reason and what are the why it happened, something like that.
Yes, answers the question why. And it shows the results, right?
Yep. Problem and the result.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, good. Next one. We have
Definition and example.
Yep, definition. And what does this one do?
More explaining and to understand.
It gives examples to explain what?
Things or
The subject or the textbook.
So it explains terms, right? And it, well, and it gives examples. Right? This also can be called illustration. An example. Or generalization. An example. So basically, what this does is it gives examples to explain anything, really, right? To illustrate something, to generalize something, or to define something. So whenever you see examples trying to explain anything, that is a definition and example pattern. And next, in your next class, 960, they'll talk about more of the illustration and generalization and example, but it's just the same thing. If I say, man, it's hot outside, and I give a bunch of examples of why I think it's hot outside, that's still definition and example. Okay? What's another one? We have 4. We have 2 more. And you did these last week. This is chapter 5 that we're talking about now. So, Ugbad, remember what we did. What are the 2?
Sorry.
And the time orders.
Yes, time order. And what is that?
Like giving time to order, like
Right? So things must be kept in order or it changes the meaning of the text. So if you remember the 3 little pigs example, right?
yes.
Do you remember that, Ray, the 3 little pigs example in the voice thread? Yeah?
I don't remember at all.
You don't remember that? Well, we were talking about, was that time order or was that simple? Oh, we should just do the next one. What is the next one? I just sort of gave it to you.
Addition.
Yeah, it's simple listing, same thing. I call it simple listing. It's an addition.
Okay.
It is addition. But what simple listing is, a list of things that can be in any order. And it doesn't change the meaning. So if you mix up the things, it doesn't matter. So the example at the end of the PowerPoint on VoiceThread was to look at the Three Little Pigs story, right? And decide whether it was time order or simple listing. And it was tricky. What did you guys come up with? Is the Three Little Pigs simple listing or time order? Do you need me to tell you the story?
It's about the simple listing.
There's a Three Little Pigs and they left their
Yeah.
mom.
I remember. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the first pig built the house out of straw, and the second pig built the house out of sticks, and the third pig built the house out of bricks.
Yeah.
Okay, so would that be simple listing or time order? You're thinking simple listing, Priyanshi? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think, Ray?
I don't know, because I don't remember it all. So.
Okay, so I just told the story. I'm going to tell it again. Are you ready? There are three little pigs that left their mom's home and they went to make their own houses. And the first little pig built a house out of straw. And the second little pig built a house out of sticks. And the third little pig built a house out of bricks. And then a wolf came and blew down the house of straw. And the first little pig ran to the second little pig's house in the house of sticks. And then the big bad wolf blew down the house of sticks. And they both ran into the house of bricks with the third little pig. And then the wolf couldn't blow down the house of bricks. That's basically the story. Okay. So do you think that it's time order or simple listing?
I guess it might be both time order and
It
simple
can't be
listing.
both. You have to choose.
Can be both. Yes.
You have to choose. Which one? What do you think, Ray?
I think simple listing is.
You think simple listing, bud? Okay, we have two simple lists. Ray, what do you think?
Or it
Perfect term orders.
You think
Yeah.
time order.
might be time order because
And now you're
it's
changing to
step by
time
step.
order. Okay, so Priyanshi, why are you changing to time order?
No, I'm not changing it. I'm still stick on the simple listing. I'm just thinking that why it might be a time order just
Why do you-
because it's step by step, like following the order. Because the first pig built the house with a stick, and the second one built the house with woods or anything, and then the third with the bricks.
Okay. So you're thinking that because it says first, second, third, it might be time order.
Yes.
Maybe, but I'm still sticking with the simple list. I'm not changing mine.
It doesn't matter who built the house first.
It might be both. I see like
It
both of
cannot
them
be both. It cannot be both.
are
It
matching.
has to be one or the other. Ray, why do you think it's time order?
When I think time order is because, there's something changed in the story. Because,
It's a story.
yeah.
It's a narrative. Right? And if somebody is telling a story, you can't change it around or it changes the meaning of the text. So because it's a story, and this is a well-known fairy tale, right? Usually starts once upon a time. And stories up here in the modes of discourse, they are told in time order. So Ray, you are correct. It is time order, but you can see how you have to do that thinking. And Priyanshi, I'm pretty sure you were doing that thinking. You're like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But you didn't want to let go of the simple listing because of the first, second, you know, you didn't want to. So yes, so it does take some thinking to make sure. So if it's a story that somebody else wrote, you can't mix it up.
Yep.
Because it's part of a story, right? If it's my grocery list, it doesn't matter what the order is at all, right? Okay, so we're gonna stop here. And did you guys do Busy as a Bee?
I didn't find the article actually.
What? Well, now I have to go look. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. All right, so let's see. Okay. Then it would be hard to do it if you didn't see the article, right? So I hope I didn't mess it up, which I might have, because you never know. This is week 5, correct?
Yes.
All right, and this was yesterday. Nope, yep. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna share again. Where are you though? There we go. This time I'll just share my desktop so we can see everything. All right, so I'm in content and I'm in yesterday's thing, and it says extra practice, Busy as a Bee right here. So this is, anything blue is always a link. And so all you had to do was click on it and it would have come up. How come it's not coming up though? Because my computer is slow? Yes, there it is. So all you had to do is click on that. And then there was the article. Also, because we've had some issues with this, I'm just going to show you. Because that first week I was messing around and trying to clean things up, and then I made things disappear and it was annoying. I have just made another module down here called All Documents. So in All Documents, they have everything in here. So if ever you can't find something, it will be in the All Documents. Okay, just for your information. Does that make sense? All right, Ray, did you do any annotation for your Busy as a Bee?
No, I just read only. I read only the first page.
You just did the first page?
Yeah.
That's okay. I think that's all. I mean, we're going to probably do a little bit more than the first page, but let's just go over it a little bit because I think that it will be helpful to look at our how to think this through. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the document camera. And can you see that? I'm going to share my screen. I don't know how to do this so it's big. Hold on. All right. So can you see my screen, or is it just a little tiny box? It's just a tiny box?
Tiny box, yeah.
So if you go to speaker view at the very top, can you do that? Can you go to speaker view?
Oh yeah.
Does it get bigger? Does that work? Okay. Okay. Because if I share my screen, it's going to share my screen on my computer, not this. So just make sure that you're not in gallery view, that you're in speaker view or whatever. And then you'll see. Okay. All right. So here is, shoot. I need to see it though. Pin video. Let's see if I can do this. How's that? Everybody see it? It's big.
Yes.
Okay. And it's blurry. So we'll just make it bigger. Like that. How's that? Better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So this is called Busy as a Bee. Who's doing the work, right? And it's going to start on this page, and there's a couple of things. And what I'm going to be asking you to do while we're doing this is if you could pull up your patterns of organization cheat sheets. Do you know what I'm talking about? The definition sheet and the one that has all the transition words in there. Just pull those up so you can help me. Because what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you help me do this, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So the first paragraph here, it says, during midsummer days. Does that have any pattern markers in it?
It says during
Midsummer, right?
and days.
So this is all time marker, right? We know we're in midsummer, so this is time right here, right?
Yeah.
During midsummer days, humans who feel the urge to take it easy, and I'm just going to be circling transitions. This is a good strategy to just circle the transitions that you see, because then that will help you determine what your patterns of organization that are being used. Okay, so during midsummer days, humans who feel the urge to take it easy but remain burdened by work ethic. So I want to go take a break, but I have all this grading to do, right? What is that? What pattern of organization is the author using here?
Addition? Like time, no, it's addition, I guess.
Nope. It's not.
Time order?
It's not time.
Um,
It's the big but.
Causes and effect?
This is contrast. It shows difference, because what I want to do is go get some lemonade and go sit on my patio, right? But what I need to do is work, right? So they want to take it easy, but they also want to have a good work ethic. So that's two opposite things. If you want to just be lazy, that's one thing. And if you want to have a good work ethic, that's the opposite, right? So that's a contrast. And but is a really good transition that shows contrast a lot. Not always. That's why you have to read it. But a lot of the time, if you see but, it's usually a contrast. Okay? So during midsummer days, humans who feel the urge to take it easy but remain burdened by work ethic might do well to consider that laziness is perfectly natural, perfectly sensible, and shared by nearly every other species on the planet. What do you see there? I've circled the commas and the word and. What do you think, Ray? Laziness is perfectly natural, perfectly sensible, and shared by every other species on the planet. What is
List
that?
of
I think you
patterns.
mean
Yeah,
because.
that's listing, right? There's a list there. And if it said, consider that laziness is perfectly sensible, perfectly natural, and shared by every species on the planet, it would still make sense, right? And it wouldn't change the meaning. So that's listing. Contrary to the old fables about unflagging industriousness of ants, bees, beavers, and the like, field biologists engaged in a new specialty known as budget time analysis are discovering that the great majority of creatures spend most of their time doing nothing much at all. So there's that whole, that's just one sentence, which is a whole paragraph. So first of all, I circled the word contrary. That is a transition that shows what?
Difference between things and ideas.
Yes, so this is contrast, right? It shows difference. So the difference between what? So do you see how I'm asking myself these questions? If I think that this is contrast, what are the two things that are contrasted here? What are they contrasting? What two things? Can you tell? Contrary to the old fables, right? And do you know what those old fables are? Do you know what they're referencing here?
No.
We have a bunch of sayings in English, like, oh, she's as busy as a bee, right? Or busy as a beaver. And we talk about how bees especially are working all the time. And same with ants. When we look at ants, we think, oh my gosh, they're just working all the time. They're just always so busy when you observe them in nature. And same with beavers. They're always pulling down trees and stuff. So there are stories about how busy the bees are, how hard the ants work, and how busy the beavers are. And they're just stories. So these old fables about how busy all of these animals are being contrasted with what? Are they busy? Are all of these animals busy?
Yes.
Well, in here it says scientists are discovering that the great majority of creatures spend most of their time doing nothing much at all.
They are busy doing nothing.
Right? Exactly. So that's the contrast. We're contrasting that we have all these stories about how busy animals are, but in reality, they don't do much at all. Do you see the contrast between that?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the contrast. And then what else is in this? I've circled these commas and the word and. Contrary to the old fables about the unflagging industriousness, which just means busyness, of ants, bees, beavers, and the like. What is that?
Examples?
Examples of animals that we tell stories about, right?
Yeah.
But it's a
List of.
right? It's a list of animals that are busy, right? And you're absolutely right. They are examples, but they're not, they're more of a list. And I know you can't see that. There we go. Okay. So then it says, field biologists engaged in a new specially known, this is not written correctly. There's a word missing or something. Biologists engaged, there we go. Field biologists engaged in a new specialty known as time budget analysis. What is that?
Time order.
Is it? What's the time marker? Oh, because it says time. Get it? Yes. Well, this isn't really talking about time like when it's happening. They're keeping track of the animal's time, right? And so this is a term, right? It says known as right here, right? So this is a term, time budget analysis. And that is really what they're going to be talking about in this article, is how these researchers are going to keep track of the time that animals are using, how they use their time, right? And so this is the term that they're going to be exploring. They're going to be exploring this time budget analysis. They don't really define it, right? But they definitely have a term. And because of the context clues here, we can say that this is definition and example. Even though the examples are still to come, they're going to be using examples of time budget analysis. Okay, does that make sense? Are y'all with me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So the next paragraph, I'll just read the whole paragraph and you tell me what you see, okay? And I want you to notice that in the first two paragraphs, look at all the different patterns of organization we've already found, right? There's a lot. So that means we have to read slowly and carefully and make sure that we are rereading a lot to make sure the meaning is still there as we go through this, but we also need to make sure that we're noting all of the patterns. Okay, so here's the next paragraph, and I'm just going to read it and then we will talk about it. They eat when they must or can. They court and breed when driven by seasonal impulses. Some species build a makeshift shelter now and again, while others fulfill occasional social obligations, like picking fleas from fellow creatures' fur. Okay, so now we have one paragraph, and I'm going to see if I can I'm going to fold a little bit to see if I can get this paragraph all on the same page. See if I can do it. There we go. Maybe not. There. Okay. There. So what do you see here? They eat when they must or can. They court and breed when driven by seasonal impulses. Some species build a makeshift shelter now and again, while others fulfill occasional social obligation like picking out fleas from a fellow creature's fur. That was hard to say. What do you see?
Can you repeat your question again?
Say that again.
Can you repeat your question again, please?
What kind of patterns do you see in this paragraph?
Definition and examples.
These are the examples for time budget analysis, right? And what is this? These are the examples, right? Of what animals do. They eat, they court and breed, they build shelters, and they do social obligations, right? So those are definitely examples, all of them. Right? Those are examples. Absolutely. Examples of what animals do. All right, now we'll go on to paragraph 4 right here. But more often than not, most creatures engage in any number of inactive activities. Sitting, sprawling, dozing, rocking back and forth, ambling around in purposeless circles. What do you see there?
Time order.
Where's their time marker? Why do you say that it's time?
It includes stages, steps.
Where are the stages and steps?
It says make a shift.
That's this paragraph, right? Makeshift. This is all about examples of what animals are doing. This is still paragraph 3 here. And we're going to do paragraph 4 right here. But more often than not, most creatures engage in any number of inactive activities. Sitting, sprawling, dozing, rocking back and forth, ambling around in purposeless circles.
It's a list of examples.
Of what kind of examples?
Clarify ideas.
Yep, but what is it a list of? Sitting, sprawling, dozing, looking back, walking back and forth, rocking back and forth, ambling around in purposeless circles. What is that? Those are examples of, it says it right in the text. Ray, what do you think?
Inactivities. List
Yeah.
of activities.
Inactive activities. So when we were doing paragraph 3, those were examples of what animals do that are active, right? Active activities. And these are a list of inactive activities. You can see the commas right here, right? That helps you see that it's a list because those commas give us a clue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're going to go on to paragraph 5 and I will read it and then we'll look and see what we have, okay? Here we go. In fact, compared with other creatures, human beings spend anywhere from 2 to 4 times as many hours working, particularly if family, household, and social duties are taken into account. What do you see here?
List of ideas.
Yeah, list of human activities. Right here, right? Family, household, social duties, right? What else do you see? I circled the word compared.
Or is it compared? I thought it's another word. I couldn't say it clearly.
In fact, compared with other creatures, human beings spend anywhere from 2 to 4 times as many hours working, particularly if family, household, and social duties are taken into account.
It's a contrast pattern.
You're right. I couldn't even trick you. It's so compared. Everybody gets tricked by this. They always say, oh, it's compare. And I'm always like, nope, it's not. It's contrast. So yes, this is a contrast. What are the two things they're contrasting?
It is being compared by the human and
Yes, they're contrasting animal and human activity,
creatures and human.
right? Good job. That is amazing. You got it. That's really good. No, I'm shocked. Nobody gets that. So that's really good. That's why I use this articles, because I can trick you. Oh, I didn't even get to trick you. Dang it. Okay. Should we do just the rest of this this section? It just goes, it's a little bit more. There's like 2 more paragraphs, and then we'll stop. And if you want to practice with the rest of it, this is posted so you can do that. But I don't want to take up hours of your time. I just want you to see how I'm thinking through this. Does that make sense? Because I
Yes.
think that I showed you how I thought through time order and simple listing in shame. And I showed you how I thought through the self-fulfilling prophecy article. But I just think the modeling of thinking is what you need for the test. So you can see how I'm step by step going through how I'm annotating and the questions that I'm asking. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
asking myself questions all the time. So let's just go through the next one. But lest people feel smug about their diligence, evolutionary biologists are discovering that animals' inactivity is almost never born of aimless indolence, and indolence just means laziness, but instead serves a broad variety of purposes. Some animals sit around to conserve precious calories, others to improve digestion of the calories that they have consumed. Some do it to stay cool, others to keep warm. Predators and prey alike are best camouflaged when they are not fidgeting and fussing. Some creatures linger quietly in their territory to guard it. Others stay home to avoid being cannibalized by their neighbors. So, what do you see here? And I know I can't get it all on one page because it's just too, no, I can't. If I do it, then it will be too small for you to see. So let's look at the bottom first. But lest people feel smug about their diligence. Is that but contrasting anything?
Yes.
What is it contrasting?
Oh, I can't see the article. Oh, it says but and broad varieties of purpose. Does
Right?
it connect with that? And
It doesn't, I can't tell what they're contrasting. I think they're just using but as a transition into a new idea, which is different than contrasting idea.
actually, I look for the word for but and alike.
Uh-huh.
I
Yes.
thought, yeah.
Right? So we're in this paragraph, we were talking about this contrast between humans and animals and how humans work harder than animals, right? And they're saying, but hang on, don't get cocky. And that's a different kind of but. It's not contrasting anything. It's just like showing that you need to change your own mind a little bit, right? But wait a minute. Let's look at something else. So I don't know if that, I don't have anything to write down that is a contrast. So I'm just thinking it's not. They're wanting us to shift our thinking, but it's not really contrasting two things. So here's what they're shifting. They're saying, don't get so cocky about how great you are, because the animals are doing this for a reason, which isn't really contrasting the fact that humans work harder. They're just saying that animals don't for different purposes, right? So it says, evolutionary biologists are discovering that animal inactivity is almost never born of laziness. So it's not that they're being lazy. So here, never born of aimless indolence, but instead serves a broad variety of purposes. Now this but definitely contrasts. So this is a contrast between laziness and purposeful inactivity, right? The way you're labeling that is a contrast. They're not just being lazy. They are laying low to do a whole bunch of different things, to conserve calories, to improve digestion, to stay cool, to keep warm, to stay camouflaged, to guard their territory, or to avoid being eaten by their neighbors. So there's reason why they're laying low. It's not just that they're lazy. Does that make sense? Do you see the contrast there?
Yes.
Do you see anything else here besides that contrast? Hey, Ray, do you see anything? I haven't heard from you for a while. Hey.
I'm gonna be quiet now.
I know you're being quiet. I understand that. What else is in this paragraph besides this one contrast? They're saying it, they're not lazy, they have purposeful inactivity. And then what do they do?
They became lazy.
Well, are they lazy or are they doing things on purpose? Why are they laying low?
This is a tricky part.
It is? So they're saying animal inactivity is almost never born of aimless indolence, which means laziness, but instead serves a broad variety of purposes.
They did the opposite, right?
Right, they're still laying low. They're still not moving around a lot, but it serves a broad variety of purposes. Some animals sit around to conserve precious calories. Others to improve digestion of the calories they've consumed. Some do it to stay cool. Others do it to keep warm. Predators and prey alike are best camouflaged when they're not fidgeting or fussing. Some creatures linger quietly in their territory to guard it. Others stay home to avoid being cannibalized by their neighbors.
It gives a list of examples.
Yes, it does. So this is a list of inactivities that are purposeful. And these are examples. Right?
Right.
So it's a list of examples of inactivities that are purposeful. Okay?
I don't get it.
Say that one more time, Ray. Was that a question?
My question, I don't get it. So
What's your question? I can't hear your question.
I don't have any question, but I just telling myself I don't get it.
You don't get what?
I'm confused about this paragraph.
About this paragraph? Okay.
Yeah, I'm confused.
So the first but doesn't really contrast anything. It just is a transition into a new idea. Okay? And it's just saying people don't get so cocky about being such a good workers. Animals have to lay low. They have to because it's purposeful. And then they list why it's purposeful, and they list a whole bunch of activities or inactivities, why animals are kind of laying around. And the reason why they're laying around is to conserve calories, it says right here, right? Or to improve digestion, or to stay cool, or to stay warm, or to be camouflaged, or to guard their territory, or to prevent being eaten. Okay? So those are the reasons why animals lay around a lot. They're not just being lazy, they're protecting themselves. They're doing it so they can survive.
Okay.
So do you understand that now?
Not really. It's kind of.
What part is confusing?
I'm still confused about like I stay home and yeah, that's the way.
Yep, those are all the reasons why they stay home. And that they're not out working all the time.
Okay. All right.
So that's why it's those are examples that shows why they're staying home. And so that's the contrast between laziness and purposeful inactivity.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, does that make sense? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Let me write it down for you.
Yeah. All right, so are you good with ending there? Do you want to move on? Do you want to go on and do more?
Go to 7 paragraph. Right.
Say that one more time. I think it's because you're away from your microphone that it's kind of muffled when you talk, Ray. So I just couldn't understand you.
Okay.
Did you want to do another paragraph, or are you good stopping here?
Yeah, I think do another paragraph.
You're good. Did you say do another paragraph or did you say
Yeah, fair
do another paragraph? Okay, are you okay
Yeah.
with that, Priyanshi? One more paragraph or one
Yeah.
more little spot? Okay. All right. So, so while there may not be a specific gene for laziness, there's always a good excuse. And so while, and this is sort of a contrast here, right? It's kind of funny too. And so it's sort of I don't know, it's the tone is kind of funny and you can't see that. So there we go. So while there may not be a specific gene for laziness, there's always a good excuse. So that's just kind of funny and it's contrasting, right? All right, so how do they do it? How do they do it? A repertory of resting. Dr. Greg Packer and Dr. Ann Pusey, zoologists from the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, have studied lions in the Serengeti since the 1970s. And they said nearly all of that time has been spent staring through binoculars at tawny heaps of fur on the pride's collective immobility, broken only by an intermittent twitch of an ear.
It's a time order.
Yep, we have a time marker here, 1970. And do you understand what they're looking at through their binoculars? What are these two doctors studying?
The genes.
They're studying lions.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I got confused between the binocular and the microscope.
Right? Right. And so when they're looking through their binoculars at tawny heaps of fur, they're referring to
Lions.
the lions. Right? And a pride is a group of lions. Just like when you say a flock of birds or a school of fish, it just means a group of lions, a pride. Okay? So they have spent all this time looking through binoculars at tawny or lions, right? And they're immobile. So they're just laying there. Except sometimes they twitch their ears. So this is really description, which is a mode of discourse. Right? That's not a pattern of organization, but it definitely is a description, which is mode of discourse. So we can see how they're describing how lazy lions are, or lions seem, right? Because the whole point of this is showing us why animals are inactive, right? So they seem really lazy right now. So I think that the only pattern here is time order, and then there's description, so we know who we're talking about. It sort of sets the stage for our next paragraph. And our next paragraph is, a lion can lie in the same spot without budging for 12 hours at a stretch, said Dr. Pusey. They're active on their feet maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. In that brief spate of effort, they are likely to be either hunting or devouring the booty of that hunt, which is one reason they need so much downtime.
It's a cause and effect. No, I mean it's cause.
yes, it is definitely a cause and effect. What is what are we talking about here? So the effect, I always do it backwards. It's easier for me. What is the effect that we're talking about?
They are active on their feet maybe 2 or 3 hours a day.
I think it's the opposite, Priyanshi. I think it's the effect our lions are inactive 12 or more. And why are they inactive? It might be in this next paragraph. Should I read the next paragraph? I think it's all together.
Yes.
A lion can eat an enormous amount in one sitting. Maybe 70 pounds of meat, said Dr. Pusey. Their bellies get extremely fat, and they look incredibly uncomfortable and incredibly immobile, lying on their backs and panting in the heat.
Oh, here are the causes.
Yeah, so what's the cause?
So they eat enormous amount and sitting.
Oops, yep, eat. Sorry, eat. So why are they inactive? Because they're digesting, right? They can't move around because they've eaten so much.
Yes.
So then they have to lay around for 12 or more hours just to digest all that food. So that, see, which is one reason they need so much downtime. So there's the reason, the effect. They need so much downtime because they eat too much at one sitting. Okay, Ray, how are you doing?
Not bad.
Okay. All right, so should we do the next one? Monkeys are common, try and get it so you can see, there we go. Monkeys are commonly thought of as nature's indefatigable acrobats. So you can see the root word here is fatigue,
Yes.
which means they are just tireless. They don't get tired. That's what that means. Nature's indefatigable acrobats. But many species, there's a but many species sit around as much as 3/4 of the day, not to mention the 12 hours of the night they usually spend sleeping. So what is going on here?
It's the opposite from the lion. The monkeys they don't get tired actually.
So
They spend the day.
monkeys are commonly thought of as nature's indefatigable acrobats, that they don't get tired. But many species sit around as much as 3/4 of the day, not to mention the 12 hours of the night they usually spend sleeping. So what is the contrast here?
Examples.
People think what?
People thought that monkeys are lazy animals.
Do we?
Busy.
Yeah, we think that they're always jumping around and hanging out in trees, right? They're jumping from tree to tree all the time. That's what this says. Monkeys are commonly thought to be nature's indefatigable, they don't get tired, acrobats. And you know what acrobats are, right? They're
Yeah.
swinging around. So people think that monkeys are really busy, but they're not, right? They sit around most of the day. Okay? Monkeys were still sleeping. Dr. Franz de Waal, a primatologist at Yerkes Regional Primate Center in Atlanta and author of Peacemaking Among Primates, said that he was amused to discover the lax, what does that mean? Lax habits of the woolly spider monkey, which he observed in Brazil with Dr. Karen Stryer. One morning, the two researchers awoke before dawn to get out to a distant observation site by 7 a.m. when they assumed the monkeys would begin their day's foraging. We were sitting there and sitting there, said Dr. de Waal. By 11 o'clock, the monkeys were still sleeping, at which point I fell asleep myself. So this is an example, right, of how monkeys are not as active as we think. Right? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So do you guys have this up on your computer, or are you just reading it here?
I'm just reading it here.
Ray, do you have it up on your computer or printed or something?
I printed it out, so.
Okay. So I want you guys to read paragraph 14 and do paragraph 14 yourself. Just let me know when you have it.
Okay, wait a minute.
You ready?
No, not yet. I keep thinking about these biology.
Okay.
I think it's a comparison pattern
To what?
to the monkeys and the birds.
Yes. So we have hummingbirds here. We have monkeys here. We have lions here. And they're making the same point, right? About all of them. That they all are laying around more than we think. Especially the monkeys and the hummingbirds. This is definitely comparison. What about the next one?
It is the opposite of what human thinks. Like beavers thought to battle about single
Right?
medley.
They
But
think, yep.
But
Keep going.
instead, they work, they save food.
Mhm.
It's something opposite, like contrast.
Only 5 hours a day from what we think, right? So yes, from what we think is contrasted reality, right? We think the beavers are super busy, but they're not. And that's just another example to go along with our hummingbirds and our monkeys and our lions, right? So all of these paragraphs have been examples. And then this keeps going. This is about hummingbirds still. They rest for long periods of time. And then what about this?
They're comparing the busy bees and workers' ants of Aesopian fame.
So Aesop or Aesop is, those are the fables that they talked about at the very beginning. Remember when they talked about the fables? Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. There. The fables.
Yeah.
That's Aesop's fables. And so that's Aesop. Aesopian. So they dedicate only about 20% of the day to doing chores.
So they are comparing all the animals and the ants, bees, insects.
Yep. Otherwise, they stay still.
Okay.
Right? So all of these are examples of how we think animals are really busy and they're not. And they all have reasons why they're not, right? They seem to have run out of work to do, right? They really do look lazy. And then the next part is going to talk about why this cost benefit analysis, right? This cost benefit study shows rest is best. And they're going to go on with that. But it's pretty long. And so are we okay with stopping here?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, I know we haven't read the whole thing, but tell me why did the author write this? What's the author's purpose?
To explain the difference between the animals and the insects.
You are absolutely right. They're explaining how we perceive animals and the reality of animals, right? And
Yes.
that definitely is happening. So tell me it in the vocabulary of author's purpose. Which author's purpose is this? Remember that quiz we took?
To persuade.
Are they trying to convince us of this? They want us to do something?
Like to inform.
To inform, yep. They're explaining and telling, right?
Right.
And then what about the mode of discourse?
Narrative.
Is it a story told in time?
No. Expository.
Yeah, it's expository, it's telling, right? It's factual. It's not trying to convince us of anything. There's definitely some description in here though. So this is the primary. They want us to know about it, but the secondary mode would be description. because they are describing what lions are doing. They are describing what ants are doing, right? They're doing some description, but really the mode is expository. They're telling us and explaining what happens and how it's different from what we perceive animals to be. So then if we had to choose a pattern of organization, just one pattern of organization that would tell us about this whole essay, what pattern of organization would be the best to categorize this?
Time order.
Is it told in time order?
No, it's about definition and examples.
There is definitely definition and example.
But I would
Absolutely.
like, I think, contrast, because it already describes how it looks, how things are different and opposite.
Yeah, the whole thing is saying, we think this, but this happens. We think this, but this happens. And really, it does have to do with the definition too. If this were a test, I would accept either one of those because they are explaining that time budget analysis, and they're contrasting our beliefs about animals with their time budget analysis. So I would definitely do either one of those, but I do think that contrast is our best answer.
Okay.
Okay, so what was the topic of this?
Busy as a bee?
Is it just about bees?
No. Animals.
It's about, what about animals though? It has to be a little more specific than that. Animal what?
Animal analysis, animal activity.
Animal
Okay.
activity, right? This whole thing is about how animals are active or not active, right? It's their activity. They're talking about active stuff and inactive activities, right? So absolutely about animal activity. And what is our controlling idea? What is the most important thing that this author wants us to know about animal activity?
Busy. Not busy.
Are they all busy?
No.
Okay, so help me. Animals are not
Active as we think.
Yeah, that might be a good thesis. Animals are not as active as we think, right?
Right.
There we go.
Um,
Good. It's a great thesis. Now, if we were going to make it a formal thesis for like a study read, we would say in the article, busy as a bee, Natalie looks like angrier. I don't know how to say it, but that's what it looks like. Discusses how animals are not as busy as we think, right? Or as active as we think.
Right.
Okay. Awesome. How do you feel about this? Are you feeling a little bit better than you were?
Yes. It makes it more easier. So
It does kind of freak you out a little bit because you think, oh my gosh, every line has a pattern of organization.
It seems like to be a lot, but it's not. And it makes it more easier to understand the article also.
Yes, that is very true. I just wanted to model that thinking for you. So when you start going through your practice tests, which you're all going to do, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring questions on Monday so I can help you, right?
So the quizzes are all about like everything that we've done till now. So
Yes, you will have to do, okay, so I'm going to pull up, hold on.
oh, it was just the practice that we did like in the morning.
Yep, hold on. Sharing. All right, so here is your practice test right here. Okay, and everything in red is not on the actual test. However, I left it on here because these things are important to know so you can do the test.
Okay.
If you don't know what the modes of discourses are or the patterns of organization are, you're going to have trouble with the test, okay? And then right now there's only there are two of these little paragraphs, but on the real test there will be 4 paragraphs that are like this.
Ooh.
Okay, so you're going to have 4 of these little tiny paragraphs where you're going to have to figure out the main idea. And so if I were you, when you're doing the practice test, I would do it just like I just did. Topic plus controlling idea, okay? And then figure out your thesis. I would do that right in the margin, right on the test. So you can start getting your brain doing that, okay? So you're going to be reading this, figuring out the thesis, figuring out the author's purpose, and right? Author's purpose, you know that, pi, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Figure out the mode of discourse, and then there's a multiple choice here that will ask you what the main pattern of organization is.
So the practice quizzes, will that be graded?
The practice test is never graded.
Oh, okay.
This is practice. This is so you can figure out what you know and what you don't know and what you need clarification on. And if something is hard, like let's say this is super hard for you to do this like tonight, then on Monday you can say, can you go over the first paragraph? And I will go over the first paragraph just like I just did with Busy as a Bee.
Okay.
Okay, but you're gonna have to ask those questions.
Okay.
Right, and then there's another one. And then this is the longer selection. So on the actual test, there's going to be 4 of those little paragraphs and a longer selection. And then, you know, there's always going to be vocabulary and context. There's going to be a thesis thing. You're going to have to figure out the purpose and the mode of discourse. And then I'm asking.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yep. Then I'm asking you to find specific things about patterns of organization. And then, of course, there's a little reflection as well.
So do we have a specific amount of time?
On Monday, yes, you'll have 2 hours.
Oh my God, 2 hours to complete all of them?
Yes, 2 hours. I just want you to know that this is what I would do in a 2-hour class. So this is not unreasonable at all, except usually they have all of this too. I just cut this for you guys because basically I'm not going to give you points for something you can look up. And I cannot prevent you from looking it up because you're at home. In a classroom, I would be like, put all your stuff away and you have to do all of this. So this would all have to be memorized, right?
Yep.
But I can't do that because I can't prevent you from looking it up. And so I hope you don't. I mean, it's a test, but I can't prevent it. So I'm not going to give you points. You know what I mean? I'm not going to even put that on the test because people would just look it up. So that's why it's in red, but the rest would just be part of your test.
Okay.
So it is not unreasonable. You should be able to do that. And especially if you practice with a practice test, then your brain's going to be ready to do it. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Any questions about the practice test before we're done?
I have a question, but I guess after the class I can talk to you. Like,
Perfect. Perfect. Here. Hello. All right. So I'm done. I'm going to stop recording. I hope that helped. I hope that you can kind of climb onto my thinking and start trying to think the same way. Ask those same questions of yourself as you're reading, and that will really help you. If you say, oh, this is compare and contrast, then you should, or this is comparing, then you should be like asking yourself that question, like, well, if it's comparison, what's alike? Or if it's contrast, what two things are different? If it's cause and effect, what is the effect and what is the cause? If it's definition and example, where's the term? How are they defining it? Where are the examples? And usually the examples are in a list. But then you have to look at the list and say, can I mix this up? Would it change the meaning? No. Then it's a list. Or if it's time order, you're going to look for those time markers, right? Dates, times, and if something cannot be mixed up. All right? So that's the key to this test, is to ask yourself those questions. Okay?
okay.
All right. I'm going to stop recording, and then if you have extra questions that you don't want recorded, I can answer them.